Good morning. When we view gun violence solely through a lens of mass violence and shootings, we miss the bigger picture of everyday gun violence that's happening in America. What's happening in our country right now is not normal by any standard or measure. Consider this. Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed by guns in America, more than any other developed nation on earth. American women are 21 times more likely to be murdered with a gun. Americans are 10 times more likely to die by gun suicide. And did you know that gun violence is now the #2 leading cause of death for American children? But for Black children and teenagers, it's the #1 leading cause of death. This is not normal. 100 people are killed by guns in this country every day, with 60% of them, a little more than 60%, dying by suicide. 35% are homicides, and unintentional and unintentional and law enforcement shootings are slightly around 2% each. This death count accumulates to 40,000 Americans every year, and the numbers are climbing. This is not normal. We do not have higher rates of mental illness. We play the same video games and watch the same movies as other citizens in the world. But what sets us apart are weak gun laws and easy access to firearms. And despite an overwhelming majority of Americans who favor proven policy solutions like criminal background checks on every gun sale, one of the most effective policy tools we have to keep firearms out of dangerous hands, our Congress remains paralyzed. Great cultural shifts have happened in the last several years as highly publicized mass shootings grab our attention. When we react primarily to these mass shootings, we respond to our worst fears that this could happen to us. So we contract, adopt a bunker mentality and a posture of retreat. We feel helpless, like these shootings are inevitable and impossible to predict or prevent. The new normal for our children are monthly active shooter drills beginning in preschool, armed teachers and bulletproof backpacks, training programs for teachers and students to stop the bleed and fight off attackers. This is not normal. Are we preparing our children to learn or for battle? The bunker mentality imprisons us, and we are sending a message to our children that school is a place for them to prepare for danger that they should expect. Nearly all of us can remember the names of our favorite elementary school teachers, and many of us still had favorite places in our schools. Mine was the library. I even had a favorite bookshelf. Maybe for you, it was the cafeteria or the art room or the playground. We need to stop and ask ourselves, what will the memories be for our children of their elementary schools? The places that we taught them to hide? This is not normal. Instead of worrying about spelling tests and multiplication tables, our kids are worried about active shooters in the hallway. One friend shared with me that her 16-year-old daughter recently shared with her that she purposely chooses dehydration at school so she won't have to use the bathroom and risk being caught in the hallway or outside of the classroom if a shooter comes. This is not normal. Our kids know what the hard corner or the safe corner is for every room that they enter in their school. Little kids don't want to wear light-up shoes and draw attention to themselves anymore. This is not normal. Public school officials in Jefferson County, Colorado, recently distributed buckets and kitty litter to use as makeshift toilets during an extended lockdown drill, and felt-tip markers so they could mark the time a tourniquet was applied to the arm of a potential victim. This is not normal. Our children are crying out, and for some of these children, the drills feel too real and are causing real trauma. Some schools are firing blank guns and trying to create realistic scenes by playing 911 calls, screaming and sirens, having student actors and teachers wearing bloody clothes. This is not normal. I've heard stories of children writing goodbye messages on their arms to their parents because they've confused the drill with a real situation. This is not normal. What are we doing? Our children are crying out to us in anxiety and fear, and we can't comfort them when we are living and making decisions from a place of panic ourselves. The security industry is growing rapidly, and there are a whole host of products available for lawmakers who are feeling the pressure to do something. But instead of allocating our tax dollars and resources to purchasing firearms for school personnel, installing bulletproof glass and building security towers that make our schools look and feel like prison, we need to stop, take a deep breath, and look for another way. What if instead of armed security guards on campus, we invested in nurses, social workers, counselors, and psychologists? What if instead of active shooter drills, we dedicated resources to professional development and training for teachers and reading coaches? How about instead of bulletproof glass and towers, we invest funds for art, music, drama, sports, and clubs that foster a sense of connection and belonging for students? So how do we find our way through these complex times and make course corrections? I'm a budget lady. That's what I do for a living. And I tell everyone, if you show me your budget, that I'll tell you what your priorities are. So what are our priorities? Or better yet, who is our number one priority? If you ask any mother, the answer is easy. Children. My children, your children, all of our children deserve to live a life of peace and freedom from violence. So how do we get there? Many people responding to difficult and complex situations will have a couple of reactions. They might shut down or go numb. They're so nervous, they're paralyzed, they wring their hands. Our politicians seem to not be able to offer us much beyond thoughts and prayers. But what if the answer to those thoughts and prayers was an army of moms in red t-shirts? A powerful force for love and change in our times. Moms demand action. We are a nationwide, nonpartisan grassroots organization of volunteers working for common sense solutions to end gun violence. I have a Bible verse that hangs above my desk at work that keeps me remembering. It's Isaiah 6:8. And then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" And I said, "Here am I, send me." My faith compels me to work tirelessly here and now to bring about God's peace and an end to violence. It's why I became a volunteer and later a leader with Moms Demand Action. We support the Second Amendment and legal responsible gun ownership, but we understand that with rights come responsibilities. We're a group of mothers and others working in every state across this country for meaningful change to reduce suicide and homicide, unintentional shootings, and mass violence. So, some of the policy solutions that we're working on, and what we are working hard on, are criminal background checks on every gun sale, favored by over 90% of Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, gun owners and non-gun owners. We favor red flag laws, which can temporarily or permanently remove firearms from the hands of someone who is a danger to themselves or the rest of us. Waiting periods, which can help people on the edge of suicide, interrupting that access, because method matters, and the mere presence of a firearm triples the risk of suicide for a gun owner and everyone in their household. We also favor and volunteer and advocate for programs that reduce city gun violence, programs like teaching nonviolent communication and conflict resolution. We want to improve educational and workforce opportunities for neighborhoods that have generational poverty. Simple things like improving lighting and the beautification of public parks and spaces. Moms Demand Action and other gun violence prevention organizations are leading the way, and our sole motivation is the health, safety, and well-being of our children. And the shift is happening, but we need all hands on deck. We need students and educators, we need business leaders, and people like you. We need to demand more funding for gun violence research to treat it like the public health epidemic that it is. We need to break down silos and connect communities of lawmakers and policy, of healthcare professionals and law enforcement agencies, of city planners, educators, houses of worship, and neighborhood organizations. And when we focus our energy on policies that are proven effective, we don't have to guess and resort to fear, getting back to that bunker mentality and preparing for inevitable disaster. But instead, we can join hands and work together with love and creativity and connection, empowerment. So if gun violence is something that you know about, you've thought about a little, but you haven't done much, I'm going to leave you with a very important question to consider today. Who in your life would have to die from gun violence for you to care enough to do something about it to bring about change? Thank you for listening.